Hey everybody, it's the Skate Punk Lefty James back here with another video. Finally, after all the car videos and weird posts about toys and stuff like that, me just trying to keep the channel active, we're finally back with actually a formal video. I'll be right back on camera in a second. Give me a second. Turning my air conditioner so it's blowing on me. So, today, we are going to be covering Ben Shapiro's review / criticisms about Superman, possibly the first superhero or the blueprint for a superhero, what a superhero is, and who a superhero and who all superheroes are based on. Not to say all superheroes don't have their own differences, but I feel as though Superman is the blueprint for what a hero is supposed to be, a very anti-fascist heroic icon. So before we get into this video, and I just want to make this clear about all anti-woke grifters, whether it's, the critical drinker or quartering all these right-wing grifters who push this nonsense saying that superhero media just today has gotten woke are all liars and dummies. So is people like It's a Gundam who once said that anime was not woke also, or manga content from Japan is not woke. It's also a very ignorant person. So let's talk about what a superhero is. Superhero stories, whether you know it or not, are regular people with superpowers pretty much dealing with social injustices but with supernatural elements. One in clear-cut example, for instance, is my favorite superhero from Marvel, Captain America. Captain America was created by two New York Jewish men as a sign of justice and freedom to stand up against the Nazis. Literally, Captain America's inceptions at Marvel Comics was him fighting Nazis, and other superhero teams such as X-Men will continue the tradition of standing up against fascism, bigotry, and right-wing authoritarianism. And the same could be said for a lot of DC superheroes. No, not fighting Nazis all the time. Even people like Batman speak about things like inceldom, heartbreak, loneliness, and a lot of Batman's rogues galleries, for instance, is a lot of right-wing libertarian despots. So, and a lot of these people wind up the way that they are, and this is regardless of superhero media, on these, as villains, is because the injustices against them. So a lot of super villains, like Electro from Spider-Man, were working class kind people, just dealt a bad hand one too many times. And the point of these stories is supposed to teach us all to be better people. And let's talk about a little wokeness in anime, which how Naruto was a literal offering. Offering. Naruto was an orphan who faced discrimination because of the way he was born. Goku was literally called slurs, and Vegeta also by Frieza, a colonizer who did a genocide, probably several genocides on several planets of people who he just turned his back on and didn't like one day. So we can speak about any anime, any action cartoon, any comic book or manga, and you can find political elements and storytelling about social issues in these media. And for anybody, whether it's Shapiro, critical drinker, any black conservative political commentator that does the fake I'm a black nerd against wokeness thing, all superhero media is woke. All superhero media is real problems told through a lens of supernaturalism. Things like racism, xenophobia, homophobia, sexism, have been discussed in these works, and even open fascism has been discussed in these works. But I digress, because we have this time period between, especially since the early 2000s, even before that, where it's confirmation bias. So every superhero movie with woke elements, of sorts, made after 2016 has to be snubbed by these right-wing creators. But if you actually go back in history and you pay attention to the actual original comic book media, or even some of the original cartoons from the Marvel cartoon universe or the DC animated universe, you will see elements of speaking against social injustices and are in these heroes pushing themselves to be better, and sometimes villains pushing themselves to be better despite the circumstances that they were born in and the hands that they were dealt. So without further ado, we can get into this 12-minute video. I guess this is going to be the one specifically talking about the wokeness, but I gotta reiterate, if somebody wants to talk about this, debate, comment, whatever, I give you my opinion on it. But all superhero media in Japanese manga and anime is woke and was built with, again, super powerful people dealing with regular social issues. Again, without further ado, let's get further started, because I have to make that clear.
Now, in much, much lighter news, I just wanted to comment on the fact Superman is coming out this week. So, of course, this is much lighter news. Superman, the new movie from James Gunn, I've been a little skeptical of it because I think...
Hold up, wait a minute, nope. I want his review of it. Sorry, I'm not going to cut the video either, because I did that whole speech at the beginning. I have to see his review. I don't want to hear him complaining about the wokeness, because I've seen the movie.
Alrighty, folks, so I watched the new Superman, and I have many, many thoughts. This video is sponsored by our friends over at ExpressVPN.
Because of course it is. It's all about the money to these people. These people don't actually care. Ben Shapiro is not a real comic book or superhero fan. None of these right-wing grifters are. What they care about is convincing lonely and isolated people that their enemies are black people, women, and immigrants or gay people, and not actually talk about the real context of how these superheroes or even anime protagonists exist.
I went with my wife. My wife and I always have an interesting time watching movies together because when I go, I'm very analytical about what I think of the movie. My wife sort of gets an overall gestalt, and it's mostly like, that was fun. And so my wife's review was, that was fun. And I think most people who come away from the movie will probably do the that was fun thing. And that seems to be what the people are saying. People are generally...
No, actually, a lot of actual superhero movie fans actually love the politics and the way of thinking discussed in Superman 2. It's not, see, they have to make an excuse. So suddenly now, despite it being so cold, because keep in mind, we just saw a video from him posted 2 weeks ago that was going to probably say that Superman was going to flop because it was pushing wokeness, and now that it succeeded, he has to make a counteracting narrative to say people are just walking away from it and saying it was fun. Well, maybe it's one of two things. Maybe you're the person paying attention to the politics a little too much. That's number one. Or two, people actually like the politics of the movie.
Like in the movie, they think it's fun, they think it's kind of a kick. David Cornsweet is charming, he has good physical presence. I didn't mind him as Superman at all. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane was fine. I thought she was great. I thought both of them had good chemistry. I thought all of that was fine. And then there is the analysis. So, my overall review of Superman. Superman is super meh. It's meh. Okay, so all the people who are getting super exercised over the...
It's a really good movie with extremely high reviews. It's been the #1 movie, even after Fantastic Four, which I saw yesterday, has come out. It's been the #1 movie in America 3 weeks in a row. And he's trying to say that this movie sucks. There's people who have went to go see this movie 2 or 3 times that I know of. And you have to be kidding me that... because you don't like the politics of James Gunn or this Superman movie, you're going to say that it's super exercise, it's meh. You're a damn fool, Ben. Like, it's amazing that you still have an audience that can actually look at you in the face and watch you project and then just go along with your narrative without questioning this dumbass thing you just said. That's amazing to me.
Politics, and we'll get to the politics a little bit later on. I think that they are overestimating how much politics is in this. I think they're deliberately misinterpreting some of the politics that are in there. This is not a movie about illegal immigration. It's not a movie about...
It is.
ICE, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, the Palestinians. There may be references there if you have politics.
No, it is directly referencing these world issues and using them as a catalyst to build a narrative for this modern Superman movie. There it is again, where we say that when it's specifically referring to the politics of this movie, is using real world issues such as the Russian invasion of Ukraine or the Israeli invasion of Gaza to build a story, a racialized, sort of non-real world centered story about a real social problems where you have these small countries that are being devastated by these large colonial fascist superpowers. That is a real problem that we deal with. And we are theorizing, what if Superman was real, a person that actually wants to do good for the sake of good? What would he do to stop these invasions and to change things in this world? And they directly, again, because Ben's in denial when he says this at 1 minute 18 seconds, that James Gunn did not use real world problems and invasions as a catalyst to build a narrative about the problems that we face on this planet Earth.
On the brain. Life. But other than that, I really don't think that there's that much of this there. That is not my overall problem with the movie. My overall problem with the movie is that you are taking the most iconic American IP of all time, Superman, which is to be treated with a certain level of respect. That doesn't mean it.
And I hate to keep pausing it here just 10 seconds later, but Ben Shapiro, maybe you and the people with your politics are un-American. That's something I've been saying lately. And that's why Superman and other superheroes rub y'all the wrong way so much, because y'all don't believe in individual liberty and freedom. Y'all don't believe in all men are created equal. You don't believe in truly believe in limited government. You don't believe in anything that's pro-American. Y'all are right-wing warmongering fascists, and Superman and other superheroes were always written to criticize people like you, Ben. You're a warmongering Zionist, a very rich man who supports other rich people in their endeavors to oppress working people on this planet. And when these even sometimes, I dare say, liberal comic book artists talk about the basics of America, like equality, individual liberty, and limited government, you get offended by it. You get offended by a movie criticizing the fact that wealthy people have too much power. You're offended by the fact that we have a serious, James Gunn spoke that there's a serious issue with xenophobia in this country. You're offended by the fact, and you are, that James Gunn used a lot of modern conflicts, of people that you side with to be, heels and the bad guys in this movie. That's a you problem, not a us problem.
Has to be grand mythology, the way that Zack Snyder wants to do. Like, my standard for Superman is not Man of Steel. My standard for Superman movies is 1978 Richard Donner, the best version of Superman. It just is. Overall, here is my problem. James Gunn is the wrong director, writer, creator for this thing.
I saw Chewbacca on the cover of People magazine. I was like, oh my God.
He's just wrong for it. It's Guardians.
And notice how James Gunn is a successful writer, but you are not. That's the funny part about this, bro, is that you're a fucking nobody. You're a failed screenwriter, and James Gunn is successful at the thing that you wish that you were doing right now. But I digress.
The galaxy with Superman in it. And so that means it's all kind of a mess. It's an overstuffed movie in every way.
It's not.
Visually overstuffed.
Because what he's doing here, and I hate to keep pausing this to make points and stuff like this. So what Ben Shapiro and other right-wing anti-woke grifters have to do, they have to slowly build a narrative about how the movie is overhyped, is overpolluted, there's this thing wrong with it, because Ben Shapiro does not want to talk directly about the subject that James Gunn wrote an anti-fascist, anti-wealthy, pro-class solidarity movie with a projection of positive masculinity. Ben Shapiro doesn't want to talk about that. He has to paint this narrative that all these things were going on in the movie. No, it was a very fluid movie. And I dare say, starting Superman off, not from his origins and coming from Kansas, and this being his first movie and first fight, and starting it towards like the middle of his career and experiences being a superhero, was nothing but a plus. But hey, that's just me.
In terms of plot, the plot holes are big enough to drive a truck through them. There are character problems. And all of it is just kind of wrapped around this gauzy, fast-paced...
What plot holes specifically do you mean about characters being introduced the wrong way? Like, are you going to specifically tell us about that? Or are you just going to say it before you get to your politics because you have to boil the frog for your numbskull-ass audience?
Jokey tone that doesn't mesh with Superman as central part of America.
It does. Superman is because this is again right here, and he's gonna get further into it, and I hate to keep pausing it because like I said, I love superhero shit, so I'm very critical of everything that he says here. So what he doesn't like is that Superman was not a dark hard ass. It's just like his Batman review from a couple years ago. He doesn't like the fact that Superman is loved and loves other people. He cares about human life. Superman is soft, and Superman is a Boy Scout of sorts. He does not like to see positive masculinity exercised by superheroes because Ben Shapiro is a fascist. So he thinks that if it's a real superhero, he thinks it's somebody like Rorschach, or maybe the Dark Knight Rises Batman, who I've heard has fascistic tendencies, but I digress on that. But he believes that a superhero does not exist to save lives and to uplift the spirit of humanity. He believes in the real world, or in the quote unquote fake universe they exist in, he believes superheroes' only job is crime and punishment. And when a superhero is more than just crime and punishment, and it's not dark, it's not brooding, it's not the superhero being mean to people and saying how disgusting society is and how much better they are than everybody else, and how society needs to come, get better, and how they are the savior that the world needs. Ben Shapiro is upset because Ben Shapiro is a fascist. He believes in a one world police state where, if in theory we did have superheroes, their job would be just constantly in black neighborhoods arresting black people, like that one superhero from The Boys. So again, when he sees superheroes that that project a sort of how can I say a tendency of positive masculinity and uplifting, a care for human life is the reason why they do the things that they do, Ben Shapiro gets upset. All right, this review of Ben Shapiro doing his review of Superman now continues.
To me, James Gunn's sensibility is always to be subversive. That is what he does. He does subversive in Guardians of the Galaxy, right? He takes a comic book movie and he turns it into sort of a potty-mouthed sitcom.
Don't drink fountain water, you idiot. That's disgusting.
That is not what a comic book really is. Comic books are normally, of the time back when they were in their inception, were made for children, especially throughout the 70s and 80s, made for little boys. So a lot of comic books had a lot of slapstick humor in them. So this is nonsense when he says that James Gunn changed what Guardians of the Galaxy is. But okay, Ben. He's wrong about all his.
And he does the same thing with Suicide Squad. He takes that same sensibility and now he's doing that.
Suicide Squad was a group of goofy ass people too. I don't understand. What is he like? Because he thinks that. Because Ben Shapiro is a fascist. He's a Zionist fascist, a white nationalist. So he would imagine in his head that the job of superheroes is not, especially in, okay, we're going to talk about two things at once, right? So as an art form, superhero stories, and even shown in anime protagonists from Japan, is meant for the real world, us, to be uplifting stories. So we stand up for the greater good and we do something good for the world around us. And in universe, they're supposed to have the same effect, where that courtesy and kindness that they have for the world around them winds up uplifting other people. And it shows that despite them going through, the fury of, sometimes war and dealing with criminals and even wrestling with their own emotions, that despite everything that they go through, they can still be good people among themselves despite the power invested into them. And Bill Shapiro, again, he doesn't like that because he's a crime and punishment guy, and he believes that superheroes should be one-dimensional.
With Superman.
Superman robots, I thought I told you to keep an eye on him.
We feed the canine, but he is unruly. And he realizes we are not flesh and blood and couldn't, in our heart of hearts, care less whether he lives or dies.
And I get that after the interpretation of the Snyderverse is over-serious, he's reversing himself into completely the opposite direction. But what that means is that he's constantly subverting everything.
I was raised with a dog that was my...
which is a good thing that James Gunn is doing something different, because if this movie was so-called woke and it was dark and brooding, y'all would say that he was copying what Snyder was doing. So, whatever, bro.
My sister.
The very beginning of the movie, you are told that Superman is the most powerful metahuman, right? There's a placard that says, 30 years ago, the metahumans arrived. 3 years ago, Superman emerged. 3 weeks ago, there was an invasion, and now 3 minutes ago, Superman's ass got kicked.
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
He's not very super. He is not the Man of Steel.
I mean, he is very super. They gave him not even really necessarily power limitations, but just because Superman is one of the most powerful heroes doesn't mean that he's gonna roll over and win every fight. Not to mention the fact that Superman, throughout even all his incarnations, unless he turns evil, is constantly always pulling his punches. Superman is usually never fighting at full power, because if Superman fights anybody besides Darkseid or Bizarro at full power, he can kill somebody, or Mongol. He can kill somebody. So that's why Superman was getting beat up a lot. It's not because he couldn't beat the person, he couldn't kill him, or that he couldn't take it. It's just that Superman does not fight with intent to kill, but he fights with intent to subdue. And that's pretty much every superhero, with a few exceptions.
He is not invulnerable. He gets his ass kicked routinely. He gets locked up in a prison with a character.
Yeah, that's because he voluntarily turns himself in to prevent the people from the U.S. government seeing him as further an enemy and coming after him. That's why he does that. Were you not paying attention to the context of the movie? And also, Superman felt guilty about the broadcast and what was played about him as well. And he wanted to, sort of see if he could just have an honest trial and honest accountability for what happened to him. That was why Superman turned himself in. It was not a sign of weakness. See, Ben Shapiro, again, thinks that if someone's a superhero, they are not, because they are a superhero, they are superior to normal people, that they are not subject to the laws and limitations of us average citizens, and they should be these dictators, these fucking reverse injustice ass fucking rulers over the United States and the rest of the world. But again, this is absolutely not how Superman or any other superhero is supposed to work, with some notable exceptions.
Who's making kryptonite out of his hands.
Sorry, what?
He's constantly in victim mode. Like Green Lantern has much more success in this movie. Mr. Terrific has much more success in this movie than Superman. Superman's parents from Krypton, if you're going to go through the mythology.
Superman, literally, he closed a rift. He saved so many lives in this movie. He got people's attention to a war that was going on, a possible massacre. Superman did a lot of good. He got Lex Luthor arrested. He defeated Ultraman / Bizarro Superman and the other lady. Superman did a lot of good and had a lot of wins in this movie. That's why the movie ended with him standing and walking away, not in jail, but with Lex Luthor going to prison. And even Bizarro Superman, I believe he was sent into the Rift. And the one lady, I believe, the mechanic or whatever, or the engineer rather, got killed. So with this said, I don't understand how was Superman such a loser in this movie.
Send him to Earth so that he can be a moral guide for people on Earth, using his great powers to stop evil from happening to them. In this movie, his parents from Krypton send him there. This is the big revelation of the movie. His parents send him there to dominate the life on Earth as an alien invasion, essentially, and to create a harem of Earth women to have his many babies.
Well, sign me up.
So immediately you're taking the expectation of what you know about his Krypton parents and flipping it on its head. His parents, Ma and Pa Kent, in the original, they are noble and they are wise. They're kind of salt of the earth. Here, they're basically kind of, I don't know, like down home types who don't seem to, they live in a kind of a crappy house. They're the kind of people who call the TV the box.
He's talking about y'all, by the way. He's talking about y'all, like the middle American and southern white people that actually live like that. A lot of who I believe are decent people, I don't believe this shit, is because they are the basic bare bones in some of the poorest people in America. He got adopted by the people who would, if anybody, have the very basic of American values. That's why the Kents were picked always to be Superman's parents, and they were always like that. This depiction was a little more explicit, but a family that adopted this person, we're supposed to be the basic representation of what it meant to be an American. And the middle of the country type farmers are often at the time people who fit the description, such as being a basic America, I suppose. And it's showing that despite where these people are from and all the things that they go through, they still cling to good values. And that's what Ben Shapiro really doesn't like about the Kents in their depiction, despite it not really being different from any other, is that they are good people with good values. And he literally just now just called y'all a bunch of stupid hicks that live in middle America. So, yeah.
They're the kind of folks who are sitting around and kind of scratching their butts. They're purposely cast as ugly and non-noble. Doesn't mean everything they say is bad.
They were not cast as non-noble. They were just cast as working class people. So this tells you right here that you in Virginia, West Virginia, coal miners, you farmers from Nebraska, that have a lot of the same culture and etiquette. I don't think there's nothing wrong with you because of that. Because you are who you are. And Ben Shapiro was calling y'all working class Americans degenerates right now. He's talking to y'all. I gotta reiterate.
And by the way, both of them are alive in this, right? The original Superman mythos is that Pa Kent dies, and that's what sends Superman on his journey. Anyway, Crypto.
Not really all the time.
The super dog is a terrible dog. Is a dog that does not, like an idiot dog. Like way worse than my dog Happy. My dog Happy way better than this dog, and my dog makes trouble. This dog,
because you probably abused the shit out of that dog. That's why.
is a mess. Supergirl, who you get introduced to for a hot second at the very end.
Or Ben Shapiro is the type of motherfucker to have a pet and not take care of it himself. You don't even play with, or take out your dog. You have a team of people to do that shit for you.
Supergirl is a drunken teenage brat. Right, like anything that you think you know about the Superman universe, James Gunn is determined to debunk in the first.
He's really not debunking anything. And if anything, he's giving more gravity and depth to characters. Because again, if you have superheroes that just stop bank robbers all day without, and this is why I feel like stuff like G.I. Joe fails and does not sell many movie tickets, merchandise, whatever. When you have a superhero or science fiction property that has one-dimensional characters that have no differences in between them, but they did Supergirl really well in DCAU. That's a whole nother subject for another time. But when you have, in today's society, in 2025, you make a superhero that's one-dimensional, you will get one-dimensional results. People won't go see your movie. Reviewers won't like it. When people review and see these movies, people are looking for more depths to the superheroes and supervillains. And when you don't have that, your movies will perform poorly. So actually, especially looking at the success of Superman and even some of the boosting popularity surrounding Supergirl, James Gunn made the right decision with everything he did and said in this movie by subverting people's expectations. Because nobody, in the problem when it comes to superhero fatigue, if that's a real thing, which this movie kind of debunked, people are tired of seeing the same story over and over again. People do not and this is why, especially in the 2000s, this is why anime took off so well. And a lot of superhero media has taken story subversion tactics from anime and Eastern media. Not to say no Western media has ever done it, but my point being is that when you have narratives that pan out, the good little boy Johnny gets superpowers and he saves the city and then that was it. Or if you write a dumbass authoritarian society where the boy grows up to become a fascist like Ben Shapiro, you get a lot of criticism, and you get and the main criticism would be that this movie is one-dimensional and stupid. It's really that simple.
Half hour of the film. I think that it's a betrayal of the original IP and mildly upsetting. Not like hugely upsetting, but mildly upsetting. That is my critique of James Gunn. He is not the right person for this film because James Gunn is not capable of delving. He's just not.
Said the unsuccessful screenwriter.
He's not capable of delving into a single character and examining his motivations and what's interesting about that character. He can't do it with Superman. He can't do it with Lois. He can't do it with Lex. Instead, he decides he's just going to toss everything into the stew. And so you end up with this sort of 88.
I don't know what he's talking about. Again, he's just saying nonsense before he gets to the review of the movie about the part that he doesn't like the politics. So you can already be mad at the movie by the time he starts talking about the politics. Everything that Ben Shapiro said, I broke down pretty much, and all of it was nonsense.
HD film where a bunch of things are going on at the same time, but you never get a good, interesting perspective on anybody who's in the film. So Green Lantern is there, and he's kind of just a schmuck, and he's there as comic relief. And then you have Mr. Terrific, who's the actual hero of the film, who you learn nothing about other than he's just kind of a noble do-gooder fellow. And you have all these superheroes who are wandering around. You never get any information.
That's because this movie was made with the idea that you know who these superheroes are already. Everybody knows who these superheroes are, how they were injected into popular media, and are familiar with their abilities. This movie was not meant to tell you stories about these superheroes from the beginning, and you should know that, Ben. So Ben Shapiro, if you don't know who the fuck Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, and Green Lantern and Superman is, or Metamorpho, or Lex Luthor, you are not a real superhero fan in the first place. In fact, I even take it to a point, especially about Superman, you're stupid if you don't know the basic origins of Superman. So, I digress on that.
About them that makes them interesting or sympathetic or even particularly cool. But you don't know the motivations of any of the villains except for Lex, who it turns out is just really kind of jealous of Superman because Superman
because he's the ringleader. He's the Lex Luthor is the main supervillain in this movie because he uses hyperintelligence and wealth to manipulate those around him. That is the point of Lex Luthor in any incarnation, and to act as if otherwise is use purposely being obtuse and stupid. Because all the technology that the main villains that are doing the fighting, like the Engineer and Ultraman are doing, is a result of Lex Luthor's jealousy, hatred, and will to usurp and destroy Superman. And that's in any media too. Like that, this is not new, and I don't understand how this is hard.
Has superpowers, and Lex is like, I'm really smart, and Superman is really strong, so why do people like Superman more than they like me? Which is a pretty boring motivation.
It's not. Lex Luthor is xenophobic. That's why he doesn't like Superman. See, and this has got to be kidding me. This has got to be kidding me. So, out of all the years of comic books, almost 100 years of comic books, 40, 50 years of movies and TV shows, both cartoons and real world adaptations, you, Ben Shapiro, don't understand why Lex Luthor does not like Superman. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? Really? You don't understand that Lex Luthor is a xenophobic rich man who thinks that he's supposed to be the hero and that Superman is a literal alien from somewhere else who does not deserve the same respect and prosperity as him. And the fact that when Lex Luthor tries to be a hero every time, he fails, but Superman in the Justice League succeeds. You don't know that basic fact about Lex Luthor? You didn't see the way that they spoke to and talked down to Superman because he was from somewhere else? You don't understand that his past, because because he was from a different place, was weaponized by Lex Luthor the same way you do, especially Latin American and Arab immigrants? Really, Ben? You didn't understand that? like who's the superhero expert here? Is it you or me?
To be frank. So the characters are complete pastiches. They're just cardboard cutouts. Even the moments that are supposed to hit don't hit because there's so much going on in the background because James Gunn cannot control his ADHD. He just cannot.
I think he was pooping his brains out for the next 36 hours.
There's a scene.
This is not like Transformers 2007 or Revenge of the Fallen. All the fights are very fluent and well choreographed. Ben Shapiro is just lying. There's nothing else for me to say about this section of the video. He's just lying.
Where Clark and Lois, they've had a fight, and now they're back together, and they're having a talk. And it's supposed to be this very intimate talk where they're speaking with each other. And literally outside the window, Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl are fighting a gigantic sort of eye monster that looks like it's from Suicide Squad.
Stop it right there, Joker. You never get me, Batman. Will you catch him up?
It's extremely distracting because he's James Gunn.
It was comic relief and world building is why James Gunn did that. It's to show that Superman not only does not have to be involved in every fight, but there's other threats going on in this world outside of what Superman is participating in. And it was also done for comic relief purposes to show that Superman, despite being a superhero himself who was supposed to go out there and help him, was ignoring him because they were talking to his wife. It was a comic relief and world building fused together. And I don't understand how somebody that's supposed to like these movies don't understand this. Like, bro, like, why? Well, I know why he's doing it, but like, still.
And everything has to be some sort of dumb joke. You're like, well, shouldn't Superman be doing something about it? No, let them handle it. Again, that's...
It's literally a comic book movie. It's silly to begin with. All this is silly. Like a man fighting in World War II with a shield, a super powerful, invulnerable man from another planet who can move through air unaided, a dude who puts on a bat costume and fights crime, robots who turn into cars and other vehicles and have been fighting a civil war. All this shit is silly, bro. All this shit is silly. All of it is silly. A kid born with a fox demon spirit inside of him, a boy from another planet born with a tail and superpowers or whatever, however you want to say it, or advanced key energy. This shit is all silly, Ben. So don't act like James Gunn is doing something unique when the very premises that all the shit is built on, though it's very fun, is also very fucking silly.
That's irritating. As far as the plot itself makes very little sense. The plot is basically that Lex Luthor has decided that he is going to make a deal with a foreign politician who the left wants to believe is both Vladimir Putin and Benjamin Netanyahu, but actually is just kind of nothing, is going to...
It's both of them. You got to project to say that it's not. It's both of them. It's analogous to both of those people. It's not the left saying that. It's what's actually happening in real world. That it's a possibility that Elon Musk, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Vladimir Putin are working together to subvert the will of the American people and make people who help us and build our world and make our world a better place out to be villains. That this is a factual thing that's going on, and that was the purposeful analogy. And if you put the analogy together, Ben, that's your fault too. That the people that you support and side with are the bad guys. That's your fault, not the left's.
Invade another country, and Superman stops that invasion. Apparently Lex wants to use this as an excuse to box up Superman, saying that he's running counter to American foreign policy. Now, we've seen that iteration in other movies. Right? That was in Batman versus Superman. You've seen it in other versions of the Superman story, but it's not really taken kind of to its ultimate extreme politically. In any case, it turns out that what he really wants is to annex half of this separate country. He's going to split it with this other dictator. One major plot hole. Lex Luthor is obviously the smartest person in the film. So smart, he can create his own universes. Is a major plot point. And he is concerned about a relatively small piece of land occupied by third worlders.
I mean, Lex Luthor wanted the land, and also because it could benefit. So see, and this is dumb as hell, because having control over a populace of people and gaining like sort of a corporate mastermind, gaining a sovereign nation, is a big deal, and it's too much to talk about. But when a rich person, you know, a random guy that's giving money to this foreign dictator to conquer and split a country with him, that's a bad thing to begin with. A rich man should not have say in the sovereignty of, you know, these citizens, and these citizens will suffer by having their sovereignty removed. And having a large multinational corporation run a country, Ben, you jackass, would be a bad thing for the citizens that live there. That's why. Because Lex Luthor acquires land and resources by splitting this country in half. So that means Lex Luthor has authority over the farms, the oil wells, the working population, and any other materials, whether it be like iron, coal, anything that's found in that half of that country is now at behest of Lex Luthor, a very powerful evil man who's a bad guy, the actual villain of the movie, besides the dictator that is in Ultraman and the Engineer. That's neither here nor there. Is a bad thing for a man like that to gain more power and control and influence over the lives of many other people, and given these resources and this labor given to him, it will provide even more money and resources to him. This is a bad thing that we have to explain to Ben Shapiro why a rich person gaining half a foreign nation would be a bad thing.
This is his big plan. And later it turns out that he said, oh, no, I started that war just so that I could get people to turn against Superman. Okay, well, he does that halfway through the film.
And yes, and not to mention that fact, you keep forgetting and you keep trying to ignore Lex Luthor is xenophobic. That's what hatred does, Ben. Y'all motherfuckers are irrational. No matter how much data and statistics about different social problems that's brought to y'all and ways to solve them are brought to y'all, y'all ignore it and y'all live in y'all insecurities and anti-intellectualism. So, you know, that's what Lex Luthor is doing. He's doing what you do, Ben, because it's like real immigrants. Because despite Shapiro, all the, you know, immigrants, all the work and hard labor they do and everything that they bring to the American table, you still have negative, reprehensible, and awful things to say about them. And that's why, you know, that's why you and many other right-wingers of any kind, whether you're a Zionist, a fascist, or whatever, a Nazi, y'all continue to do and support horrible things because you refuse to be wrong about something. And then when you're wrong, if you're not saying that the data is literally Jewish, you're saying you're wrong and the data is deep state data. So, you know, what do people do with you, man?
And then he jails him, and then he leaves him alive and explains this secondary plan that apparently was his primary plan, sort of, but he doesn't kill Superman at the time for a reason that remains undisclosed.
We hear that he killed 27 children, and you're always going to make mistakes, but that's how it is.
The entire plot is a complete mess. If you try to chart it, there's no way to do it, because James Gunn doesn't care about plot. James Gunn doesn't care about characters. James Gunn cares about jokes and aesthetics.
This is a projection because Ben Shapiro, keep in mind, his origins is that he's an unsuccessful writer. A right-wing unsuccessful writer, watching a liberal or perhaps even left-wing screenwriter garner success to be the number one movie in America for 3 weeks. In it, James Gunn is a man who wrote a movie, several works, by the way, that directly disagree with Ben Shapiro's politics, like looking at Creature Commandos and Peacemaker, I'm sure, as well.
What James Gunn cares about.
Nobody cares anymore.
It's very difficult to make Clark a hero in a situation in which the plot is a complete mess. And again, that's not a rip on Nicholas Hoult, who I love in everything. I think he's great. Or David Corenswet or Rachel Brosnahan. That's a rip on James Gunn as a scriptwriter. It's just not a good script. Okay, we'll get to more of this Superman review, this overlong and overcritical Superman review in a moment. First, it's rather ironic when you think about it. Millions of military members have fought for our freedom, but, you know, a lot of the privacy that we rely upon is eroding every day. Our phones listen to us. Tech companies track everything we do online. All that is Superman. And so there's some really gross and weird images, particularly in the Pocket universe, where you have characters who are turning themselves into weird tentacly octopuses, and you have people's eyes being attacked on a wide variety of it. He has an obsession with eyes, James Gunn, and you can see it in Suicide Squad. He has like an obsession with the eyeball being pierced, and it's very strange and off-putting. My wife was very off-put by a lot of this imagery. It feels like psychedelic LSD CGI vomit is what it feels like for large portions of the film. You never really get a kinetic scene of Superman doing something cool. You have multiple scenes of giant heavy...
Superman stopping a building from falling on somebody, Superman saving a squirrel, saving several civilians. You have Superman fighting Ultraman. You have Superman being attacked by those troops and him using his laser vision to like basically spin around real fast and get him off of him. You had several scenes of Superman doing cool things in this movie. I don't know what the hell Ben Shapiro is talking about.
Objects falling on Superman and Superman stopping the giant heavy objects from falling to save an individual. Again, another plot hole. You'll have a giant building. The entire building will fall, and he will stop the building from falling to save one person.
Because it was an empty building. It was an empty building. The buildings, when Superman was saving people in that scene, an evacuation had happened. And so what? Other people have gotten away. Superman sees there's one person in danger, because a disaster can be happening and you can have 10 people safe, but 1 or 2 people still in danger. And plus they want to zoom in on the humanity of Superman, about how Superman actually cares about saving civilians. It's not just somebody here to beat up the bad guy.
Or a chipmunk who is in the way. But it's an entire building full of people, so presumably all those people are dead. In any case, the visuals, I think, are a problem. The music, again, John Williams is still alive. Just hire him to do your Superman movie, you stupid. Just stop it.
Get some help.
I get very exercised. This is the only thing that really exercises me about this. John Williams, his original Superman score is one of the great scores in all of movie history. It is
like literally nobody wants to hear that shit.
A phenomenal score, beginning to end. It may be John Williams' best score. I love that score so much. It is a great, great score. It is magic. And what do? They take the original theme and they play a few notes from it because it's so iconic, and then they underscore it with nothing, with like a pedal tone. It sucks. The music is awful. The score is terrible. Just play the original score. The original score is good. The original score is magic. You feel the magic when Superman flies in the original score. Like, what are you doing? Okay, then we get to the actual politics. So
if he would have used the same scores back then, he would have said they're reusing things and being unoriginal. So 12 minutes into this movie, we finally get to the politics. He spent 12 out of 21 minutes building a fake narrative that this movie was subversive, it was weird, and that this movie had all these inconsistencies and shit. It's, again, you have more of this saying shit like that, and I believe we only have like 9 minutes of this left to actually dispute and talk about the politics. That's on purpose, because Ben Shapiro doesn't want to come out and say, I don't like this Superman movie because it promoted neighborliness, it criticized colonialism and war, it criticized our what's the word I'm looking for? Our cynical way of looking at heroism and doing the right thing, and it was a projection of positive masculinity. He doesn't want to say that to begin with. He wants to have people that, you know, actually do partially even care about superhero movies take him seriously before he can convince you that movies have gone woke and are anti-white or whatever else the hell he wants to say.
I know, this is what people are waiting for. They're waiting for my political rip on this film. So we've been told this is a movie about illegal immigration. Not really. Honestly, like you...
It is. Thank you. It is. In part, it is. Yep. Superman has always been an immigrant, has been somebody from somewhere else, has been somebody not welcome here. Lex Luthor does not like Superman because he's a literal alien from somewhere else. And even when Superman has fought Nazis in the Ku Klux Klan directly from, people have, these Nazis and these Klansmen and whatever have directly said that they don't like Superman because he's an alien and he's not from here, so he's not welcome here anyway. So Lex Luthor, especially one of Superman's main rogues, is very xenophobic and is angry at the fact that people so love an alien and respect the alien more than they do him. Facts.
You have to look to find that. There's one line where Clark is saying, aren't you going to read me my rights? James Gunn's politics is so ham-handed, like truly ham-handed, that it doesn't even...
I mean, that's because that's also criticizing the modern phenomena of immigrants being arrested and deported and detained without due process and not being read any rights. People who are trying to do the right things in society are being ripped off farms and kidnapped from Home Depot parking lots despite them going through the right paperwork to do the right thing, because this administration just wants to get its immigration numbers up. So yeah, he put a real problem. A lot of immigrants are not getting due process.
Read as political, it just reads as stupid. So there's a moment where Clark, he's being arrested, and he says, aren't you going to read me my rights? And one of the members of the government says, well, you're now considered an enemy alien, or you don't have any rights because you're not an American. All right.
Why are you mad? And I argue that you're making it more political than the statement already was, because you're offended by it. You're offended by things y'all say. Y'all say that. And you're mad because he put it in the movie to criticize y'all numbskull, numbnuts ass way of thinking. That's you. Stop saying that dumbass shit.
If that's supposed to be some sort of like anti-ICE sentiment, it's really weak. Also, legally...
It's very strong. I don't know what to tell you. It's what y'all say. I don't understand why you're mad at James Gunn for criticizing and putting things in a movie that y'all say.
Incredibly
like,
stupid, considering that he
mind.
came to Earth as a baby and then was adopted by an American family, which would make him American.
That was meant for the babies.
Y'all literally are talking about taking away birthright citizenship from people. Y'all literally call people anchor babies. It's been literal children getting deported. Children with ailments and disease have been getting deported as well. So what the fuck are you talking about? I don't give a fuck about this out of context clip of Donald Trump lying.
Slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation.
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
What does that have to do with immigrants not getting due process and the fact that kids are getting deported? Keep in mind, he would not be a legal citizen. You just said, and even if he's adopted by an American family, you just said he came here as a baby. He was already born. He was not born here. So he would not get U.S. citizenship, and he would have to go through due process to get that citizenship, fool.
There's a suggestion that he says truth, justice, and the human way. I didn't catch that anywhere in the film. The sort of social media politics that social media is stupid and rigged by bots, which, I mean, I think everybody sort of agrees on at this point. And there's a really dumb visual joke where Alexis set up actual monkeys typing into computers as his bots. It's like, oh, God.
I mean, that's what right-wingers are, because you can literally say some shit like, I'm going to go volunteer at the soup kitchen. Make sure you do something to help somebody someday. Those motherfuckers should help themselves. Why should I waste my time and money to help other people? My tax dollars are staying with me. I'm not paying taxes for other people. So, and not to mention the fact that on social media platforms, especially looking on Twitter, Twitter does have a right-wing bot problem where bots are, you know, paid to, you know, to comment and share certain people's profiles and certain people's posts. So that is a real thing that's going on.
That's so James Gunn. Again, it's all so... I can't... I just don't like James Gunn. I mean, just to be... And again, I'm one of the people who, when James Gunn was first fired from the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise in July 2018 over bad old tweets, I actually defended him at the time. So it's not about like anything personal with James Gunn. I just don't like his movies very much. The other politics of the situation are supposedly this foreign policy thing. So the left is suggesting that the foreign policy conflict in which Superman engages is a stand-in for Israel and the Palestinians, or alternatively for Russia and Ukraine. So let me give you the geopolitical setup. The geopolitical setup here is that there is a country called Moravia, and this country called Moravia is run by essentially a corrupt dictator who's working with Lex Luthor, and it invades another sovereign country, Jarhanpur. Okay, and so Superman stops that at the very beginning. Okay, like, and it doesn't show him stopping it. He talks to Lois Lane about it. Fine. Okay, the idea is geopolitically that Moravia has been a longtime ally of the United States. Jarhanpur is a country where we don't know who it's allied with, and it may or may not be run by jihadis, but we don't know. Like, we don't know who it's run by. It doesn't matter.
It does not matter. Jihad means holy war, by the way. You can be a Christian and a Jew, and you can fight a jihad, by the way. Like, for instance, I believe in a jihad against inequality and homelessness. I believe in a jihad against income inequality. So this racist shit y'all do, where y'all try to, oh, look at this this word, jihadis. What if they're run by jihad? It doesn't matter, because again, we have seen in the past. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. Just because a country is run by a certain group of people does not always justify subverting and invading and just trying to destroy that government and then nation build from that. Not to mention all the human suffering of the innocent people there. So just because the government is extremist does not always justify military activity. Easy.
The only reason that Clark stops it, that Superman stops it, is he says because
people were going to die.
Which, as we'll get to in sort of my final breakdown of why this movie doesn't work and why no really good Superman movie has been made since '78.
What did he say?
I'll explain in a moment. The people of Jarhanpur are brown.
Look at my African-American over here.
The people of Moravia are white. Okay, so this is why the left is reading this as Israel and the Palestinians. The reason it doesn't work that way is because we are not made aware that the people of Jarhanpur are either wildly terrorism supportive, that they have participated.
Look at all this fucking projection right here. Like all this projection right here about, about nothing. Like he's projecting in things about nothing. Maybe it's really that simple. What happened to not putting politics into shit? You're making it more political than it has to be, and you're, ironically enough, siding with the villains of the movie. You're siding with the Baravians and Lex Luthor. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, I don't know if I should end the video right here. I'm gonna try to listen to this whole thing, but like, God, you don't understand. You're agreeing with the villains of the movie by seeing the analogy and then going on to justify fictional supervillains, bro. That's fucking crazy that Ben Shapiro is believed to be a good movie reviewer or intellectual about movies as a failed screenwriter, by the way, especially like nerdy and alternative movies like this. It's amazing that this guy has a voice when it comes to talking about superhero media. When in this movie, you get so upset at the politics of it, you side with the supervillains and the villains, and you start counting off on your hands, oh, what if they supported this? What if they supported that? It doesn't fucking matter. This would be like saying, why would we side with the X-Men because Magneto is a terrorist? It doesn't fucking matter. That's not the point. But if you're going to bring it up, that brings up the fact you're the bad guy. This movie was written to criticize Zionist, fascist dirtballs like yourself, dude. Who would be Nazi supervillains if we had superheroes and supervillains, bro? Insane.
In multiple terrorist attacks on the people of Moravia. They're led by a corrupt dictatorship that murders gay people, right? None of that's in the movie. So it doesn't match up that way. And the idea that
Ben Shapiro cares a lot about gay people.
Moravia is Israel in this iteration, like a longtime U.S. ally that's randomly invading countries for territorial gain, that does not match up to any of the facts on the ground that we know of at all. That is not real. So maybe in left-wing brain, that's how it reads. I could see if you're a left-winger and you don't know anything about the situation, or you think a bunch of false things, you could read that maybe. You could also read this as Russia-Ukraine because it's one sovereign country that's invading another sovereign country, and because the leader of Moravia has a Russian accent. So I guess that if you have like poison left brain.
The Russians are nuking us! Go! Go, go, go! We're all gonna die! Come on, come on! The missiles are coming! They've lost their mind! Go! Get to the gym!
But you certainly don't have to read it that way. And I'm not going to read it that way because it's stupid and it doesn't make any sense politically. It makes no sense. Okay.
He literally just read it like that and got mad and then sided with the supervillain. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy fucking work right there.
So this brings me to my final point about this movie and all other Superman movies. The fundamental flaw in all Superman movies of my lifetime is the thing that Hollywood cannot say and will not do.
Politics. Does he still stand for truth, justice, all that stuff?
The only Superman movie that I have ever seen that uses truth, justice, and the American way is the original 1978 Superman.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
This is not just a throwaway line. It is deeply important to the character of Superman. Why? Well, because take Superman.
Look at this whole ass shit. So people can't criticize him. I'm gonna just talk over him and I'm gonna skip forward because I'm gonna see if this is really his last criticism. Superman in this movie doesn't say the American way anymore. It's because clearly truth and justice is not the American way. We have seen an expansion of wealth inequality. We see motherfuckers like you get on the internet, defend inequality, defend racism, defend sexism, defend homophobia, and project your hatred everywhere. And then you say it's the American way, which also informs the fact of your xenophobia, how you care very little about people that are not white Americans. So that's why he didn't say it. And I believe that America can be better, and that it is true. But and that's another problem, is that you are a fascist, a Zionist. You don't believe truth, justice, in the American way. You don't believe all men are created equal. You don't believe in limited government. You don't believe in the basic founding principles of liberalism, and directly or regularly argue against them on your shitty ass podcast.
Best as a character, Superman is unbelievably powerful, unstoppable. He's faster than anyone. He has X-ray and laser vision. He's stronger than anyone, right? He's basically a god on earth, and the biggest god on earth. He's Zeus, right? He can do whatever he wants. And so, why is he the good guy? Why isn't Lex Luthor right? Because, let's be real, if there were a person on earth who actually had those powers, Americans would rightly be very much afraid of that. Correctly. As Federalist 50.
So, because somebody different, we should be afraid of them. So, Ben Shapiro is making... What in the... Ben Shapiro is making a Friends of Humanity argument right now. He's making a Friends of Humanity argument. What the fuck? So you're literally telling me, despite all... I'm done. Yes. Ben Shapiro... And I'm going to end this video on saying this. Ben Shapiro doesn't like Superman because Superman is an anti-fascist icon, and Ben Shapiro himself is a Zionist, white nationalist, fascist scumbag. I probably said that a lot of times. And he does not like a movie where things like neighborliness, not judging others, being anti-war, and anti-military industrial complex, criticizing a wealthy xenophobe is the core points of this movie. And Ben Shapiro doesn't like that, because Ben Shapiro, if given a chance to be with superpowers in the real world, would be some sort of Nazi supervillain. But I digress. Been a long time coming for this video. Thanks for watching.